In October 1972, a lively Uruguayan rugby team boarded a chartered military plane for a friendly match and a short vacation in Chile. The flight required careful navigation, but the trainee co-pilot made a fatal error. He reported to air traffic control that they had reached Curicó, Chile, assuming they had already cleared the Andes, but they were still trapped inside the treacherous Planchon Pass. Acting on his miscalculation, the co-pilot began lowering the plane's altitude directly into the heart of the towering peaks. The aircraft hit an air pocket, clipped a mountain, and both wings sheared off. The remaining fuselage plummeted down a glacier, sliding at 350 kilometers per hour before slamming into a snowbank. 33 survivors found themselves stranded at 11,000 feet, facing freezing temperatures with nothing but the summer shirts on their backs. Initially, the group adopted a strategy of passive waiting. They huddled inside the shattered cabin, rationing a tiny supply of chocolates and wine under the assumption that a rescue team would arrive the following day. Whenever they heard an engine pass overhead, they tried to signal. The women even gathered every tube of lipstick they could find to write SOS across the roof of the cabin. This image shows why they were never seen. The white fuselage was camouflaged against the snow and rock of the Andes, making them invisible to the search planes flying directly above. This expectation of rescue drained their early energy, while the world continued to fly blindly past. Days later, one of the survivors finally managed to power a small, broken radio using salvaged batteries from the cockpit. Instead of organizing a pickup, the broadcast they intercepted delivered devastating news. The international search operation had been called off. A survivor named Marcelo gathered the group and told them this was good news. His reasoning was cold but clear. They now knew for certain that no one was coming. The end of external hope forced a shift in the group's mindset. Without the possibility of a rescue, their survival now depended entirely on what they could do for themselves. Starvation was accelerating. People tried chewing the leather off the plane seats and spent hours melting snow in deodorant caps just to get a sip of water. To stay alive, the survivors crossed a moral threshold. They made a solemn pact. If any of them died, the others had permission to consume their body to keep the group alive. On day 17, as they were adapting to this reality, a sudden, massive avalanche swept down the mountain. It buried the fuselage and killed 8 more people instantly. For days, the survivors were trapped in the dark, buried under tons of snow alongside the bodies of their friends. This was the low point for the remaining group. The avalanche showed that staying in the fuselage meant certain death. Active physical escape was now the only alternative to the ice. They devised a plan. A team of the strongest survivors, Nando, Roberto, and Antonio, would walk westward toward the unknown peaks to find civilization. They created crude gear by pulling insulation from the plane to stitch together sleeping bags, packing frozen rations for the journey. The climb was grueling. After days of vertical trekking, Antonio decided to return to the fuselage so Nando and Roberto could have his remaining rations for the rest of the walk. As Nando and Roberto neared the summit, they feared looking over the edge to see a sea of white mountains stretching to the horizon. They were starving and unequipped, yet they chose to walk into the void because they refused to die quietly in the fuselage. At the summit, they discovered a snowless valley with green vegetation and a river that led them to a Chilean horseman. Because the river was too loud for shouting, the horseman threw a note tied to a rock across the water. Nando wrote back, "I come from a plane that fell in the mountains. I am Uruguayan." Nando and Roberto guided the military helicopters back into the glacier. After 72 days, they pulled the remaining 16 survivors from the ice. Of the 45 people who boarded that flight, only 16 walked back into the world. Their survival suggests that resilience begins the moment a person stops waiting for a rescue and starts saving themselves.